Hello, my name's John Hogan. I'm a motorcycle journalist. I'm here at the Honda Institute in Bracknell in the UK with my friend John Hensman. John's been working in the kind of technical family with Honda motorcycles for the last 4 decades, John?
Yeah, it's getting that way.
He's worked on pretty much every Honda I can ever think of, but in particular he's worked on every single Fireblade. So we're here today with this bike. It's in its 2nd year of sales. It's the Honda CBR 1000 RRR Fireblade SP. Like I say, 2nd year of sales. There are loads of them out there, but what John and I have done, and what we're going to talk about, is 10 things that we think would interest you about this bike. So John kind of led the way with the list, and the first one that we're going to talk about is the R&D, the concept, and the general design.
Yep, I was at the Qatar launch and worked with senior staff, senior Japanese designers, and their benchmark and the briefing was to build a race-winning bike. The performance benchmark was RC213 VS, and this bike shares a lot of the manufacturing processes and components from the RC213 VS.
So that would be, I think, primarily because of the success that RC has had on track in MotoGP, but Mr. Ishikawa-san, the project lead or large project lead,
yep,
he actually designed and built Valentino Rossi's 2002 RC211V, and he led the way with the project for 213 VS, which, if you don't know, that is the legal road-going MotoGP version of Marc Marquez's current bike, isn't it? So I think maybe one of the first things that we should talk about in terms of the influence from 213 is the aerodynamic package. You know, wings being a bit of a buzzword for journalists like me and guys that are looking to own the latest, greatest liter sports bike. But why don't you talk to me and everybody at home, John, about the wings on this bike and some of the aerodynamic features?
The main fairing design is very close to RC213 VS.
Yep.
For aerodynamics, also the winglets on the sides, which are actually covered over very nicely. That creates a downforce on the bike, which is equivalent to the 2018 RC V213. The air intake as well, incredible air intake. You can almost touch the air filter. There is no grill, it is straight through,
yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
Straight from race development.
And of course, one of the traditional barriers to being able to do that with airflow into the airbox would have been the ignition system, which on this bike is entirely keyless now. Well, it's not entirely keyless, it lives in your leathers. But I think this is something that I used to view as a bit of a gimmick. You know, it was almost like the answer to the question that nobody ever asked in terms of needing to have a keyless system. But here, you've just proved in having the ignition removed and the system on the side of the bike here, it just opens up the airflow.
Yeah, and there's no disturbance on different handlebar positioning for that air intake.
Yep. So you're not losing any airflow if you're applying steering lock, do you mean?
No, that's right, yeah.
Cool.
Next thing is a hidden technology on this bike. Tucks away down here, 3rd generation steering damper.
Yep.
Honda electronic steering damper. The previous model, first one 2008, had a steering damper on here.
Yep.
Then we redesigned it, tucked away underneath the.
And that's the thing that people might remember seeing HESD stamped on that.
That's quite a large
rotary
unit.
damper.
Now this is. Yeah, technology's moved forward. This is a 3rd generation.
Yep.
This one has 3 different levels: soft, medium, or hard. Rider can select any of those levels. But the system is very different to a manual type steering damper. I mean, if I could do a little graph just to maybe explain a slight difference on that. So this is pressure from a damper. This is speed down here. So the bike technology will monitor the terminal speed and acceleration of the bike. An ordinary damper may have 16 click positions on it, and so we've set it at 8. So an ordinary damper, we've set it at 8.
Yep.
So that particular damper, effective, but it's the same damping force whether you're 5 miles an hour or
205 miles an hour.
The Honda system will start out very light, brilliant, really nice light handlebar control.
So what we're talking about here is paddling around a car park
Perfect.
You know,
yes.
mini roundabouts, slow speed stuff.
Low speed stuff. You want
light.
nice, light, quick steering.
Yep.
And then as speed and velocity increases, then the damper will then also increase like that. So there's two key differences there. You have a huge difference
Yep.
in pressure here and here. So
I guess like a high and low speed damping.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing, and you can absolutely correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I'm assuming that some of the aero that this bike has plays a little bit of a role in the work that the steering damper might be doing as well.
yes, certainly. You could almost look at it as a package of technology.
Yeah.
So downforce and damping control.
Yeah.
So high speed, maybe extraing out of a corner.
Yep.
You're still going to get that grip and traction.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I don't want to get too nerdy because I won't be able to keep up with you. Clearly, is I was reading about the convex surfaces on the outside of the front mudguard and how that channels airflow away from the front wheel. So when I'm thinking about the job that a steering damper has to do, anything that can reduce the pressure that the front wheel is going through, whether that's under braking, acceleration, or cornering, has to be a good thing, right?
Yep, keep traction. Also, it's going to assist you on the wheelie control system as well.
Yep.
You want to keep that tire on the track.
Yeah. So next up on our journey through Fireblade SP is the suspension, a semi-active Öhlins system, John.
Smart suspension front and back, Öhlins units, 43mm fronts, inverted, titanium coated. They're looking at the bike for an enhanced control. Adjustment wise for a rider, +5 or -5 on each area, race, sport or rain.
Yep.
The front forks especially were developed with Honda and they are unique to the Honda bike.
Yep.
The bottom fork components are unique to Fireblade.
I mean, I've spent plenty of time, and it still doesn't feel like enough, getting used to the system, because it is, initially I think it can be quite daunting, but once you've spent some time on track or even just on the road playing with it, it's quite a simple system to use, isn't it?
It's quite a nice 2-arrow system or 1-arrow system for the rider to navigate through.
Yep.
Maybe going back to Qatar, yourself rode in Qatar, we had Lynn Haslam out there as well.
Yep.
A lot of the riders are living in active mode.
Yeah.
And they got some great times. I think Leon got a 2-minute lap, which is 2 second on the World Superbike times. And that was in active mode. And feedback from him, he felt, because you've got to look at temperature of the suspension, tyre wear, rider fatigue. The suspension is looking at all of that and assisting the control of the bike.
Just to put some context on that, I'm certainly not Leon Haslam. I'm a kind of pro fast group wobbler at best. Never raced. I don't have that level of experience. But for me, I've spent the last couple of days riding the bike in the rain on the South Circular to and from the office, and just having the ability to put some faith in the front end and know that it's semi-active. So it is making those tiny adjustments for you. You might know how many 100 times a second it's reading whatever's going on. But for me, what I like about it is the fact that it is as simple as choosing one mode, leaving it alone, letting it get on with it, and having a choice of 3 of those simple modes, and then a choice of variation within each of those modes to play with. And it's as simple as, if you get it wrong or you get confused, you can just push a couple of buttons and go back to the start.
Yeah, you can completely go back to default system on the suspension.
So part of the work that semi-active suspension is doing, John, is I've seen in your notes, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the frame and the general kind of rigidity of the bike. I guess it's going to be a race for which one of us can reference RC213 VS next. But I know that swing arm is made in the same way.
Yeah, manufacturing process is made in the same way as RC213 VS.
Yep.
18 aluminium sections.
Yeah.
And quite a unique manufacturing process. Swing arm is a little bit longer on this, so again, good stability on it, and it's actually it's about the same weight as the 2017 Fireblade swing arm. So we've actually increased the length for it, but reduced the weight. The frame. This is a completely brand new frame for this year model bike. There's quite a few changes on this. Again, the process from RC 213 VS. Some of the frame areas are all the way down to 2 millimeters thick.
Yep.
And two other key areas on the chassis, to be fair, for rider feedback, stability. The back part of the frame under here, there was traditionally always a cross member pipe,
yep.
which the rear suspension would mount
the top
to.
mount on
Top
the shock.
mount on the rear shock.
Yep.
That is now gone, and the rear suspension top mount bolts to the back of the crankcases.
Yep. So does that reduce rigidity, but increases? What does that do? I'm guessing here.
That's going to give rider some more rider feedback.
Yep.
From the frame.
Yeah.
Lost that support. Some of the earlier Fireblades also used to have a cross braces here underneath there. Not required anymore.
So
Technology
I think
on.
what I'm reading into that, and also from what I understand about the swing arm design, is they have taken out some of that rigidity. So I think people assume that to go really fast on track in particular, everything needs to be rock hard, but it doesn't. The riders need feel, and that feel comes from a tiny little bit of flex. But the flex is engineered now, isn't it? It's exactly where the designers wanted it to be in order for the riders to make the most of it. Yeah.
And that change also on the rear suspension mounts has allowed us also to make the bike a lot slimmer.
Yep.
Then also the subframe, which is aluminium, it's now it's bolted on the top here.
Yep.
So we've managed to get the back of the bike a lot slimmer as well. So again, for airflow stability.
Yeah, and it's almost like it's a fairly uncompromising approach, isn't it, that the design team have taken in as much as everything that you were just discussing there about things being a lot smaller and narrower across the frame, and the size of that frontal area being as small as it is, the fact that the pegs have come up and the bars have come back in compared to previous generations of Fireblade SP that I can remember back in 2014, I think they launched one in Qatar, and the demographic of owner was aging, so they relaxed the bar position, the pegs came down, and then when this one came out, all of that got forgotten, wiped off the board. And I think I remember reading in some of the press information, it was all about looking forward to the future for Fireblade rather than looking at the past and where it had come from.
The bike from the ground up is
clean sheet.
Yeah. Totally new bike.
Yeah. So let's talk about that motor then, John. It's called a litre sports bike class, and this one is as absolutely near as damn it. I think it's 999.9.
Yep.
0.9 cc. So again, everything else is all new. That's an all new motor going on as well.
Totally new engine. I've dismantled many Honda engines over my 40 years career. Have done a full strip on this engine.
Yep.
And the casting, the build of the engine are superior.
Yep.
I loved working on the engine.
So I know some guys get a lot more excited than I do about the insides of an engine. I know we've got one over there and we've got a few parts laid out. Why don't you come and show me your favourite parts in this new motor?
Oval intake ports, super polished.
So I spin it around so that we can show everyone. So when you say super polished, we're talking about this bit here or this bit down in there?
The actual intakes, a lot of motorcycle racing engineering shops will gas flow a cylinder, so this is essentially gas flow.
And it's just about making that journey from the air being outside the engine to into the combustion chamber as seamless and painless as possible. So I'm guessing the same on the exhaust side.
And to enhance that, the exhaust also now oval outlet ports on the exhaust system. Go off there.
I'm in danger of talking myself into a corner here, so I'm going to keep quiet and you're going to talk to me about these cams. All I know is diamond light coating.
Yes, correct. Yeah, the camshaft diamond light coating, and also the lockers.
Yep.
The
finger follower style.
Followers. This is a new design for Honda. They would normally have a bucket and shim arrangement, so this is a new design. And these cams, there is no actual cams available on the HRC kit list.
Yeah, on the race kit part list.
On the race kit part
so you can't go any further up the chain.
The engine itself, this is a race engine.
Yep.
Totally built for race use. There are a lot of other enhancements on this. The cam chain has been revised. It's a lot shorter. You'll notice on a Honda The automatic camshaft sensor is now at the front.
Yep.
Traditionally, it's always at the back. So on the engine, the camshafts rotate backwards.
Yep.
So they've put in an extra idler gear from the camshaft drive from the crank, so the cams run backwards. Runs full titanium race conrods on it, and slipper race pistons as well, which are coated.
Are those titanium conrods are matched to 213 VS as well? Same material, same size?
Same size, same material, same processing, manufacturing processing, and even down to the bolts are the same.
You keep talking, I'm going to nip out the shot and get some. So that's a new conrod?
That's conrod from...
And this is a previous generation?
That's previous generation, yeah. So, also the conrod, you can see, it also has DLC coating on the edge of the conrods.
Yep.
And it has now a copper bush for gudgeon pin, small end as well.
And they're matched as well, aren't they? And
these are all matched,
yep.
so essentially the engine is blueprinted.
Yeah. And just in case people are kind of wondering what that means, and I've only learnt this in the last couple of years, it's as simple as the tolerances being as tight as possible when you're weighing batches of conrods, isn't it? And
yep.
Pistons.
Essentially, these will all be weighed. Same with the pistons. They're all as identical as possible.
Yep.
Less vibration, less imbalance, and also it will aid with what's called less pumping losses.
Yep.
So when pistons are actually coming back down, it's got to pump that.
Yep.
Disperse that gas in the crankcase area as well, which has also been revised on this engine.
Mm-hmm. So efficiency's up everywhere as much as possible,
yep.
And also RPM up as much as possible. You know, I think having ridden this again on the road and track, lots of people might understand if you've ridden it as well. There is a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde nature, I think, to this motor, where you can ride it in a very docile way between tick over and maybe 10,000 RPM, and then when you get to a track day, you tuck into everything from 10,000 RPM up to the red line at 14.5, or peak power at 14.5. But I was reading about, and it was interesting for me, you know, the power really gets going on this bike at 11,000 RPM, and the red line on the 1992 Fireblade was 10,500 RPM.
Cool.
So if you look at all of the work and development that all of those previous generations have done, arguably, you know, we're looking at the pinnacle of mechanical development in engine terms for the Fireblade on road and track.
There's certainly, I've done a lot of work also, race teams over the years. This is arguably the best engine I've ever worked on.
Really?
In my career.
Well, I'm going to do another thing where I step out the shot actually and show you something else that John showed me earlier. And we were talking about the kit parts catalogue, which is, it's always nice to get your hands on these things. And what John was showing me was the 2008 CBR 1000RR kits part catalogue, which you could measure with a ruler in terms of how thick it is.
Quite substantial, yeah.
We could put them next to each other, look. When John was saying that this is a race motor, what he really means is there are more parts in this that are ready to go racing today, so there were fewer parts in here that you can order to make this a race motor. But this is the same engine that I could ride home on tonight, or the same engine that the boys will race in BSB this weekend.
Yep.
And that tells its own story, look. So I've got the engine out of the way, John, but we're going to stick with the theme and follow the gases as they come out of that lovely motor and through this lovely exhaust.
Lovely titanium exhaust developed by Honda engineers and Akropovich engineers, specifically for Fireblade. Great race profile exhaust system, and also retains the power enhancement exhaust gas control valve system as well.
I think the bit that kind of excites me the most about it is I've spent the best part of the last 2 decades telling people the first thing they need to do is get rid of the stock exhaust until this came along. What? And this is the one to keep. It does everything, doesn't it? Above 6,000 revs, it's absolutely rampant. Below 6,000 revs, I'm not annoying any of my neighbours. That kind of ticks all the boxes for me. Yeah,
yeah. Exhaust valve will open 6,000 RPM, and the tone of when I heard you guys leaving the paddock at Qatar,
especially on full chat as well, banging up through the gears on that quick shifter, it does give you that genuine kind of racer experience, I think.
First time I ever went out at Qatar, and I was in garage. It sounded like it was a
racing
superbike meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
The bike's going past
Yep.
the garage.
Yeah, and just to flick that from race back to road, it does everything that I'd like a road exhaust system to do. I just really like the fact that I haven't had to buy one from somewhere else in the world and ship it in and try and fit my own exhaust. I've done that with loads of litre bikes in the past. It's nice to just not even have to tick a box. It comes ready to go.
That's it, yeah.
So John, let's move on to the next thing that we should talk about. For me, it starts with the 5-inch TFT screen, everything that you're able to control within it. But I'd like you to talk to me about what all of those systems are. You know, traction control, anti-wheelie, ABS. Where should we start?
The heart of that technology is the IMU unit.
Yep.
The
6-axis now, not 5.
Axis. So that is looking at the bike, the geometry of the bike, roll and pitch of the bike. So that will also work with the ABS. The ABS on this now is moved to a different level in technology. Every 3 degrees of wheel rotation, it will signal.
Okay.
So that now enables us to incorporate the ABS on a cornering situation.
Yep.
Also, that system will be working in the anti-wheelie system as well. So you could look at that as a complete package, but the main hub brain of that is the IMI unit, which is located just behind the back of the airbox there.
Yep.
Has Honda selectable torque control, 1 to 9 level now, and you can also disable it, turn it off as well. So that's another safety feature on the electronics on the bike.
So you can turn on, I know that you can turn all of the systems off apart from the ABS. That system is on permanently, isn't it?
Yeah, ABS is on permanently.
And just sticking with that theme with the ABS, I've been spending some time with the BSB team this year, and I was chatting to Glenn last week about a particular lap that he did at Alton Park during the media day that you were at as well.
Yeah,
I think.
I was there. Yep.
So he took one of these, number plate, headlights, indicators, everything, stuck a set of slicks in it, and he would have qualified 9th on the grid for a superstock race last year at Alton.
Boy.
So we sat down and had a conversation, and one of the points that I put to Glenn was, what I tried to get out of him was a tip for track day riders on these bikes. And he said basically, I think what he was trying to say was leave the thing alone. People like me tend to want to play with and modify before you've even experienced what the stock setup is like. The point that he was trying to make is the systems are nowhere near as intrusive as they used to be, and they're certainly not as intrusive as people think they are now. So he was able to brake really late and really deep. And this is a BSB racer, by the way. It's not, it's not like a club racer or a track day guy. He's doing things with the stock setup that there's no way I would ever in a million years be able to do these things. And certainly before I get to try them, I would have chucked a load of money replacing Brembo style calipers, replacing amazing pads, replacing all that stuff with things that I think must be better because they've come out of a catalogue and they're off the shelf.
Yeah.
Not true, clearly.
No. Back on the ABS, there is very little feedback for the rider. The technology now is absolutely superior.
For me, just casting my mind back to Qatar, I can't really remember the ABS kicking in.
Right.
And that means one of two things. It's either so soft that you can't feel it, or I just wasn't trying hard enough, and I certainly felt like I was going fast enough.
All the bikes at Qatar, all fully ABS. All the safety systems were on.
Yep.
We didn't disable anything. That was a stock bike. We got them in the crates.
Yep.
We got them out the crate, prepared the bike, put slicks on, and sent you guys out.
And I can certainly attest to knowing that things like the traction control, the anti-wheelie control, those systems definitely do work, and people should put 100% faith in them, but also play with them. The launch control. People might think it's a bit of a gimmick. I think you can set it from 6 to 8 to 11,000 RPM.
6 to 10,000 RPM.
Yeah,
you can.
But people should play with it.
Right.
I think I've played with it. I'm certainly not saying that you should be doing this on the road because you're going to be breaking the law and that would be bad, but at least experience it. Honda have worked hard to develop these systems, include them on a bike. You might think they're a gimmick. I think they're great fun. It's launch control. Why wouldn't you want to try a launch control system on your bike?
Facilities on the bike as standard, launch control. If the rider does use launch control just from a sort of technical feedback, they ideally leave the bike for about 3 or 4 minutes before they attempt another launch clutch.
Okay.
Give the clutch a little
Yep.
bit of time just to cool down a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it a system, you might be able to tell me now, is it a system where you put all of your faith in everything and you do nothing other than leave that on the stop, you don't try and moderate it,
Yep.
you don't add any brake, you let the wheel lift control itself with the systems,
Yeah, you're right.
just drive the clutch out and leave everything as
You
it
can
is.
pin the throttle, it will set it at 10,000 RPM with the rider's preference, and then all they've got to concentrate on, feed the clutch out, but gone.
And looking where
Yeah.
they're going.
Yeah.
So John, I think that pretty much wraps up the points that you and I wanted to discuss. If I asked you to point right now at your single favourite feature on this bike, what would it be?
That's a difficult question. The bike it's a package. Me being me, the engine.
Yep.
Most incredible engine I've worked on, dismantled. It's a complete 100% race engine.
Well, for me, John, it would be the exhaust. Regardless, I appreciate your time this afternoon. Thanks very much for showing me around the bike. So I'm just going to take a moment to do what I do at the end of all of my press bike reviews, which is to try and let you guys know that you need to go along to your dealers and try these things for yourself, just to get an idea and appreciate everything that we've been talking about, not just with this bike, but with any bike. It's all well and good watching videos, trying to glean information from your friends. The best thing that you can do is walk into your nearest dealer, ask for a test ride, take a coffee off them, try this bike for yourself.